On October 7th, 2023, the celebration of Simchat Torah was shattered by an act of barbarism. Hamas unleashed a coordinated attack against Israel, targeting civilians with ruthless precision. This was not a military operation, it was a massacre. The images that flashed across our screens will forever be seared into our memory. Families, children, and young couples were brutally cut down by a wave of violence. The deliberate targeting of innocent civilians shocked the world. This was an assault on the very essence of humanity. The meticulously planned nature of Hamas's attack became chillingly clear. It began with a barrage of rockets fired into Israeli towns and cities, aimed at sowing terror. Hamas operatives infiltrated through tunnels and breached the border fence. They rampaged through streets, dragging families from their homes. The stories that emerged were tales of unimaginable brutality. The world watched in disbelief as the illusion of peace was shattered. The images of terror served as a stark reminder of the ever-present threat faced by Israel. In the face of such unprovoked aggression, Israel had not only the right, but the absolute obligation to defend its citizens. This was not a matter of choice, but a matter of survival. The Israeli Defense Forces sprung into action, launching a counter-offensive against Hamas targets in Gaza. This was not an act of retaliation, but a necessary measure to neutralize the immediate threat and prevent further bloodshed. The IDF, operating under strict rules of engagement and with an unwavering commitment to minimizing civilian casualties, targeted Hamas military infrastructure, command centers, and weapons caches. Every effort was made to avoid harming innocent civilians, even in the face of Hamas's cynical use of human shields. The world must understand that Israel, like any other sovereign nation, has the inherent right to defend itself against those who seek its destruction. This is not a license for indiscriminate violence, but a solemn duty to protect its citizens, a duty that Israel undertakes with the utmost seriousness and a heavy heart. The conflict in Gaza is a tragedy on all sides, a heartbreaking testament to the human cost of hatred and violence. While Israel mourns its dead and tends to its wounded, the people of Gaza are also suffering, caught in the crossfire of a conflict not of their making. Hamas, in its depravity, bears full responsibility for this suffering. Hamas deliberately embeds its fighters and weapons within civilian areas, using schools, hospitals, and residential neighborhoods as human shields. This cynical tactic, a war crime under international law, is designed to maximize civilian casualties and turn international opinion against Israel. The world must condemn Hamas for this barbarity. Their actions constitute a double war crime, targeting Israeli civilians while hiding behind Palestinian civilians. This is not a strategy of resistance. It is a tactic of terror, a callous disregard for human life that shames the Palestinian cause and deepens the cycle of violence. Section 5. A world divided, international reactions, and the court of public opinion. As the conflict unfolded, the world watched, and reactions were swift and predictable. Some stood with Israel, recognizing its right to defend itself against terrorism. Others, blinded by bias or swayed by misinformation, condemned Israel's actions, ignoring the context of Hamas's initial attack and its ongoing use of human shields. The international community, often quick to criticize Israel, seemed unwilling or unable to grasp the full scope of the threat facing the nation. The double standard applied to Israel, the expectation that it should absorb attacks and exercise restraint while its enemies target its civilians, is not only unjust, but unsustainable. Israel, while committed to peace, cannot be expected to negotiate under fire or cede its right to self-defense. The path to peace lies not in condemning Israel, but in holding Hamas accountable for its crimes and demanding that it renounce violence, recognize Israel's right to exist, and engage in meaningful negotiations. Section 6. The Hand of Iran. State-sponsored terrorism and the shadow war. This latest conflict cannot be viewed in isolation. It is but one chapter in a larger struggle. A shadow war waged against Israel by its enemies, with Iran at the forefront. Iran, the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism, has armed, funded, and trained Hamas, providing it with the means to carry out its attacks against Israel. The tentacles of Iranian influence reach far beyond the Middle East, destabilizing the region and threatening global security. Their goal is not merely to weaken Israel, but to wipe it off the map, a genocidal ambition fueled by a toxic ideology of hate and extremism. The world must wake up to the Iranian threat. Appeasement and inaction will only embolden this rogue regime. The international community must take decisive action to counter Iran's malign influence, dismantle its terrorist networks, and hold it accountable for its crimes. Section 7. Resilience forged in fire. The spirit of Israel endures. Through the smoke and fire, the dust and debris, one thing remained clear. The spirit of Israel, the indomitable will of its people, remained unbroken. This is a nation forged in adversity, a beacon of hope in a region often consumed by darkness. In the face of unimaginable loss and unspeakable cruelty, the Israeli people displayed extraordinary courage and resilience. Neighbors helped neighbors, first responders rushed into harm's way, and everyday citizens stepped up to defend their country. The world marveled at the stories of heroism that emerged from the chaos. The soldier who shielded a group of children with his own body, the doctor who worked tirelessly to save lives, the community that came together to rebuild from the rubble. These acts of courage, large and small, are a testament to the unyielding spirit of the Israeli people, a spirit that no enemy can ever extinguish. Section 8. The stakes. Nothing less than existence. The recent conflict is a stark reminder of the existential threat that Israel faces every single day. This is not a territorial dispute or a political disagreement. It is a fight for survival against those who seek to annihilate the Jewish state. For Israel, there is no margin for error. Every rocket attack, every act of terror, every attempt to delegitimize its existence must be met with unwavering resolve. The stakes are simply too high, the consequences of failure too dire to contemplate. This is not just a fight for Israel, it is a fight for the very values of freedom, democracy, and tolerance that we hold dear. If Israel were to fall, the forces of darkness would be emboldened, and the world would be a far more dangerous place. Section 9. A plea for understanding, a call for justice. As the world grapples with the aftermath of this conflict, it is imperative that we understand the truth about Israel's fight for survival. This is not a conflict between equals, but a struggle between a democratic state striving for peace and terrorist organizations fueled by an ideology of hate. We must reject the false narratives and double standards that too often cloud our judgment. Israel deserves the same understanding, the same support, and the same right to self-defense that we afford to any other nation facing a similar threat. The path to peace is long and arduous, but it must begin with a shared commitment to truth, justice, and the fundamental right of the Jewish people to live in safety and security in their ancestral homeland. Let us stand with Israel, not just in words but in deeds, and work together to build a future where peace and coexistence are not just aspirations but a lasting reality. Thanks for joining us on this journey through the world's ongoing conflicts. If you found our insights valuable, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on the latest developments. Together, we can deepen our understanding of the challenges facing our world. Stay informed, stay engaged. This is Edge of Conflict.